Hello and welcome to today's grammar lesson 8.6, Active and Passive Voice. The objective of this lesson is to define active voice, define passive voice, and identify the use of passive voice. But first of all, what is the meaning of voice in grammatical sense? Voice refers to the form of a verb which indicates whether the subject is performing the action or whether the subject is being acted upon. And there are two kinds of voice, active voice and passive voice. In the active voice, the subject is the one who is performing the action, and in the passive voice, the subject is acted upon by something else. Like we said, in the active voice, the subject of the sentence does the action, but in the passive voice, the subject of the sentence receives the action. Let's take a look. John painted the house. This is the order: subject, verb, object. What is the action? Painted. Who painted? John painted. What did John paint? John painted the house. So John is the subject, painted is the verb, and the object is the house, because the house received the action here, so this is why it is the object. But notice how the order is in the passive voice. The house was painted last week. Notice how we took the object from the active voice and we used it in the beginning of the sentence, and then we changed the form of the verb. So the house is the subject that received an action. It was painted by someone last week. Okay, so why do we use the passive voice? We use it for many reasons. It could be that we use it because we don't know who did the action, or that the receiver of the action is more important. For example, the documents were stolen. We don't know who stole the documents, so I don't mention the subject. Or the pyramids were built nearly 5,000 years ago by the ancient Egyptians. What is more important here, the pyramids or the Egyptians? It is the pyramids. It is the object, and that is why I started the sentence with it, and then I used the passive voice. Again, why do we use the passive voice? Either because we don't know who did it, or because we are interested in what happens, not who it is done by, or if the situation is formal. For example, smoking is not allowed. Who is not allowing the smoking? We don't know. The subject is not mentioned. Why? Because it is a formal format. Let's recap. In the active voice, the subject of a sentence is the person or thing we talk about. When the subject does something, we use the active voice. For example, people sell good luck flowers. People is the subject or the doer of the action. Sell is the active verb. It can be in a different tenses, of course. Here it is present simple. Good luck flowers is the object or the receiver of the action. What do people sell? Good luck flowers. The flowers are the object, the receiver of the selling action. For the passive voice, it is used when the subject is not the doer of an action. We put the receiver of an action as the subject, and we put the doer of an action as the object. For example, good luck flowers are sold by people. The good luck flowers is the subject or the receiver of the action. Are sold is the passive verb, and here is the doer. Good luck flowers are sold. By whom? By people. Now that I learned what the passive voice is and what its uses are, then let's have a look at how I form it. To change an active voice sentence to a passive voice sentence, I follow these steps. Number 1, make the object of the active sentence into the subject of the passive sentence. Number 2, use the verb to be in the same tense as the main verb of the active sentence. This is very important. Verb to be should have the same tense as the main verb of the active sentence. And number 3, finally, use the past participle of the main verb of the active sentence. Let's have a look at how we do this. So we bring the object first. We choose the correct form of to be verb. We change the verb into the participle, and then we add by plus the subject. So she helps him. Him, I bring it and I put it in the front. Why did the pronoun change here? Here it is an object pronoun, but when I use it in the passive form, it becomes the subject. So the subject form of this pronoun is he. He is a subject pronoun, but him is an object pronoun. Here it was an object, but now it is the subject. object. So I took the object from the active voice sentence and I put it here in the front and it becomes the subject, he. Then this verb is turned into a passive form, which we will learn in a short while. Then I took the subject and I changed it into the object. As you can see, she is a subject pronoun, and when it becomes the object, it changes into her. And don't forget to add by. So this is the rule: object plus verb to be plus the participle of the verb plus by plus the subject. Here is another example on how to change from active voice to passive voice. Subject, verb, object. Then what I do is that I take the object from the active voice and I put it in the beginning of the sentence of the passive voice. I eat an apple. I take apple and I put it in the beginning. Apple becomes the subject. Then the verb is changed. How do I change the verb? I put the correct form of verb to be, then I take the participle of the verb. So what is the tense of my main verb in the active voice sentence? It is present simple. Eat is present simple. So the verb to be has to also be in the present simple. But what do I use? Is, are, or am? I look at my subject. The subject is apple. It is singular. So I use is. Then what is the participle of eat? It is eaten. So apple is eaten. Subject, verb to be plus the participle. Again, this is very important. You have to have the verb to be tense as the same tense of the main verb in the active sentence. Then I take the subject, which is I, and I put it at the end of the passive sentence and I add by before it. The apple was eaten. By whom? By me. Notice how I changed the subject pronoun into an object pronoun. Why? Because now here it is an object of preposition. The preposition is by. So the active is they eat 3 apples. So what do? I take the object here, 3 apples, and I put it in front. 3 apples. Then my verb is eat. Present simple. So I have to have verb to be in the present simple. Am, is, or are. Since the subject is plural, then I use are. And what is the participle of eat? It is eaten. 3 apples are eaten. Then I add by. 3 apples are eaten by whom? By them. I take they and I put it at the end of the sentence. Notice how I changed the subject pronoun into an object pronoun. Remember how we said that in the English language we have 12 tenses, the simple tenses, the perfect tenses, and their progressive. So for example, if in the active voice I have a verb in the simple present like asks, I use the form of verb to be in the simple present as well. So it is am, is, or are. Then I add the participle of the verb, which is asks here, becomes asked. Why ed? Because it's a regular verb. So how is it transferred from active to passive? If the sentence is he asks, it becomes he is asked. If it's in the simple past, asked, then I use the simple past of verb to be, then I add the participle, was or were plus asked. He was asked. If it's in the future, will ask, I add will, there's no change with will, then I add just be, the infinitive form of be, will be, then I add the participle. He will be asked. Now let's look at the perfect tense. If it's present perfect, have or has plus asked, have or has stay the same, but then I add verb to be. In which form? Been, the participle of be. Then I add the participle of asked. So it becomes he has been asked. If it's past perfect, then I add had and been, which is the participle of be, then the participle of ask. It becomes he had been asked. If it's the future, I have will and have. They remain the same, will and have, but I add the participle of be and the participle of ask. He will have been asked. If it's present progressive, I add verb to be, am, is, or are, plus being, be and ing, and then the participle of ask. He is being asked. If it's past progressive, then I add either was or were, plus be and ing, and the participle of ask. He was being asked. Please pause the video and have a look at this slide and check all the tenses and how I changed them from active voice to passive voice. Are you ready for some game time? Let's see how much you understood from this lesson so far. People buy some flowers. Let's change it into passive voice. Some flowers Now you can pause the video and guess the right answer and then move on to see if you got it right. If you got this answer, then you are correct. Next question. Miss Lee paints a picture. A picture? Which one do you think the answer is? Excellent. If you guessed the answer, then you really understood the lesson. John buys some new clothes. Some new clothes are bought by John. Good job. Miss Chan places some flowers. Some flowers are placed. Amazing. Peter draws a car. A car is drawn by Peter. Let's take a look at this question. Egyptians built the pyramids of Giza. Can you change it into a passive voice? The pyramids of Giza were built by Egyptians. Columbus discovered America. What will it be in passive voice? America was discovered by Columbus. Beethoven composed the Ninth Symphony. The Ninth Symphony was composed by Beethoven. Edison invented the light bulb. The light bulb was invented by Edison. Eiffel designed the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower was designed by Eiffel. Walt Disney drew Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse was drawn by Walt Disney. Hillary climbed Mount Everest. Mount Everest was climbed by Hillary. Armstrong explored the moon. The moon was explored by Armstrong. Spain won the World Cup in 2010. The World Cup was won by Spain in 2010. Are you ready to spin the wheel of fortune of passive voice? Let's see. Let's spin this wheel. Question number 1. The car. Every week. I want the verb wash in the present simple tense in the passive voice. So what will it be? Is washed. Why is? Because car is singular and it is in the present tense. Washed is the past participle of wash. Another one? Let's spin it one more time. Question number 2. Coffee. 10 minutes ago. I want it in the past simple using the verb make in the passive voice. Coffee was made 10 minutes ago. Let's spin it one last time. Question number 3. Penicillin by Alexander Fleming. Let's make it in the past simple using the verb discover in the passive voice. Penicillin was discovered by Alexander Fleming. Now, can you change from passive voice to active voice? Let's find out. I choose question number 1, value 400. Let's see. Nature has been destroyed by men. This is obviously a passive voice. Let's change it to active voice. Which one do you think is the right answer? First of all, this is the object of preposition. They are the doers of the action. So, men come to the beginning of the sentence. But all sentences have men. Okay, but which ones are incorrect? Since men is plural, it should have the verb have, not has. So, only the first and third sentences might be correct. In which tense is this sentence? It is in the present perfect tense. So it's either have destroyed or have destroying. But I know that this is very wrong. I should have a participle after the verb have. So this is the correct answer. Men have destroyed nature. Let's see if it's the right answer. Correct! Now let's move on to another question. Let's see this one. Question 2, value 300. Houses were destroyed by the storm. Let's change it to active voice. They all begin with the storm. It is in the simple past tense. So, the storm destroys? No. The storm has destroyed? No. The storm was destroyed? No. The storm destroyed? Yes. Let's check. Let's choose this question. A lot of money wasn't paid by us. Here I have an object pronoun, so if I want to use it as a subject in the active voice, it has to change into we. All sentences begin with we. And what is the tense of the passive sentence? It is past simple. So, we didn't pay? No. We don't pay? No. We was not paid? Definitely not. We didn't pay a lot of money? I think it is the right answer. Let's see. Let's check this question. 3 value 100. An interview is given by her. Her is an object pronoun. If I turn it into an active voice sentence, it will become a subject pronoun, she. So this first sentence is incorrect. It has to be she. And what is the tense of the sentence? It is present simple. So she gave is wrong. She give is wrong because she has to take an S. So she gives an interview. Let's see. Great. There are 2 points for you to know before we move on to the exercises of this lesson. Number 1, we should use the active voice when we write because it gives our writing energy and it puts the focus on the subject and it helps make writing forceful. Active voice sentences are also less wordy. This sentence has only 13 words. The same sentence written in the passive voice contains 15 words. That's 2 more words. But again, the passive voice sentences are useful in the cases mentioned earlier in this video. The second point that you should know is that you have to maintain consistent voice, whether active or passive, when you write. For example, this is inconsistent. The Declaration of Independence was written by Thomas Jefferson and Congress approved it. The first part of the sentence is written in the passive voice. Was written by. The second part of the sentence is written in the active voice. Congress approved it. I should fix this problem by having consistency in voice. Both parts now are in the active voice. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence and Congress approved it. Now let's move on to the exercise. Exercise 1. We should change the sentences from passive voice to active voice. But if the passive voice is useful, we don't change it, and I have to explain why. Number 1. The Sioux tribe was given its name by Chippewa Indians. We have to change it because I already know the doer of the action. So, Chippewa Indians gave the Sioux tribe its name. Number 2. Lives of freedom were once enjoyed by the Sioux. Again, I know the doer of the action, so I use it and put it in the active voice. The Sioux once enjoyed. Notice how we changed from passive to active using the same tense. Here it's past simple, so the Sioux enjoyed. Number 3. Horses were introduced to the Sioux by the Spanish in the 1500s. Again, I know the doer of the action, the Spanish. The Spanish introduced horses to the Sioux in the 1500s. Number 4. The Sioux lifestyle was destroyed by the loss of buffalo. Again, the doer of the action is known. The loss of buffalo destroyed the Sioux lifestyle. Better times were predicted by a Sioux prophet. Again, the doer of the action is known, so a Sioux prophet predicted better times. Number 6. Much of the Sioux land was taken over. Here, there is no revision needed, and I keep the sentence in the passive voice. It is acceptable because it is not clear who took over the land. That is why I don't have a doer of the action, and it is written in the passive voice. Number 7. During the gold rush, it was the belief of many people that gold was located on Sioux land. I know that the doer of the action is many people, so during the gold rush, many people believed that gold was located on Sioux land. Number 8. A fierce battle was led by the legendary Chief Sitting Bull. The doer of the action is Chief Sitting Bull, so the legendary Chief Sitting Bull led a fierce battle. General Custer's troops were defeated by Sitting Bull's warriors in 1876. Sitting Bull's warriors defeated General Custer's troops in 1876. And the last sentence, number 10, Sitting Bull was killed in 1890 and was buried in North Dakota. Here, I keep the passive voice as is because for both verbs, it is not clear who killed or who buried Sitting Bull, so it is acceptable to have a passive voice. This concludes our lesson. Thank you for listening.